So the binding came from sort of two different factors in my life when I was writing it. So the first one was that I started a bookbinding class, and I absolutely fell in love with it. And I fell in love with, you know, the tools, which are sort of wood and leather and bone, and the materials, all these kind of beautiful papers and cloths, and, you know, there's a really lovely kind of tactile charm about bookbinding. So that really spoke to me. And also when you're bookbinding, like if you're restoring a book, you're kind of, one of the things you do is as you strip it back, you're sort of coming across the work that somebody did like 100 or 200 years ago and kind of seeing the work that they've put into it and feeling a very personal connection to that. So I would start to imagine what life was like for an apprentice bookbinder, and I was kind of, you know, that kind of took hold of me, that character. And at the same time, I was a volunteer for the Samaritans. And I mean, if you don't know, I hope people know about the Samaritans because it's a great charity. But if you don't, it's basically a kind of crisis helpline where if you feel upset or distressed, you can phone up somebody and you can talk to them in complete confidence and kind of work through whatever's bothering you. And most of the time, it's a kind of enormous privilege as a volunteer that you're talking to somebody and you're kind of, you know, you're hearing the most courageous stories sometimes, and it's very moving. Sometimes, as a volunteer, and very rarely, but there would be moments where I would speak to somebody and they would be kind of stuck on a story, that something that had happened to them or something they'd done had kind of become the story that they just couldn't get away from. And I started to wonder, you know, what would it be like if I could just reach out and just take that story and put it somewhere else and let somebody kind of, you know, walk away from that and live their life. And so I think it was those two things that kind of came together, the idea of this bookbinder character and, you know, the sort of questions about, you know, what would it look like? Would I do that if I could? And what would the rest of the world be like? So that's really where the binding came from, I think.